as Greg mentioned, I'm Shenise Wigfall. I'm a head of agency at Google, and so under my remit is about 40 to 50 agencies spanning the Midwest and the East Coast, and under that, about $2 billion in revenue. So I work with their advertisers as the agencies are trying to figure out how to keep their advertisers growing, keep their advertisers very happy. I'm the one working with them and working with Farjad to make sure that you guys have everything that you need from a Google standpoint. So today we're going to talk about e-commerce and retail brand strategies. And so a little bit of background for me. I've been at Google 3 years. However, I've been in the space for about 12 years or so. Before that, I had another life of a publicist, an entertainment publicist. But then I came over actually through political ads. And I used to do paid search for politicians in Washington, D.C. Really loved paid search and loved the digital space. And so wanted to make that my day-to-day job. And so in that, I had the pleasure of working with a lot of different brands in a lot of different verticals. Adidas, PlayStation, Sony Electronics, as well as a number of small to medium businesses. So my knowledge spans from really understanding what small businesses look like and how they grow, and then what bigger businesses need to continue to sustain that growth. So Google has a lot of events, but one of our premier events is called Think Retail. And so I'm going to give you guys a little sneak peek to what is going to come in a couple of weeks. Our Think Retail event is going to be simulcast on August 29th, and then it's also going to be in person. So if any of you are in New York, please feel free to come in person, but you will also be able to watch it online. So you guys are actually getting the content before anyone else. Times are changing in terms of retail and what we're seeing in the lift. We saw about 3 to 5% increase in 2020. That's due to the pandemic. People are inside. They were just spending. In terms of 2021, retail sales spiked up even more because at that point, people were excited to be out. They wanted to buy the thing that they weren't able to buy in 2020 while they were in the pandemic. They didn't know if they should be buying evening gowns, or they didn't know if they should be buying frivolous things because we just didn't know what was going on. And so we saw a huge spike in terms of sales in 2021. But also we saw that as people were still spending, they were saving. So they were hoarding their money like crazy. And so from there, now we see we've entered into this state of inflation. We have credit card debt, and savings is going down. People are depleting their savings. And so there's a number of reasons why we're seeing savings going down. Some, to Phil's point earlier, are deciding, you know what, I'm not going to be able to hold on to this money for the rest of my life. Let me go spend it. And then there are some people who are needing to use it for other things, like their credit card debt that's going up, everything that they've been racking up. And so in terms of the shopping landscape, what we're starting to see is that it's really a time for you to pivot. Consumers are pivoting, and the retailers need to pivot as well. And so what we're seeing is spontaneous purchases are a bit down because they're doing more intentional shopping. So they're looking at, what do I really need to spend my money on? And so that could be something that is, to some people, a little bit more frivolous, but they're giving a lot of thought into what they're going to spend their money on now that inflation has jeopardized that. And then we're also looking at what channel are they looking at. So as we know, the consumer journey is not linear. Right now, when you guys search, and we're going to be a little bit interactive here, when you search, do you immediately buy? No, right? You might, in terms of your decision tree to search, you might see something online. You might see a YouTuber, influencer. You might see something on TV. And then you might get served an ad that you didn't type in. You just were served in, and you're like, how did I see that? And after a while of seeing so many of those touch points, you're like, you know what? I remember this brand. I'm going to search it. So that consumer journey and that path is no longer linear, and so we need to be in more than one place. So if you are only running on paid search, if you are only running, hey, we're only going to do TV, or we're only going to do search and TV, you're probably going to miss a huge part of your consumer base. And so what we see is that consumers are shopping 2+ channels, and that's up 85%. So in that, they are looking at TikTok commerce, they are looking at Google Shopping, they are looking at Meta, any of the Meta products in terms of commerce, and they are going back and forth between them. And so they are not loyal to any particular channel. And also, they're not loyal to brands at the moment. They're looking at value. They're looking at who can give me the best deal right now, who resonates mostly with my lifestyle in this moment, who had the funniest ad that I really thought was cool, and so I'm going to engage with them. There's a whole bunch of different ways. So no longer are we seeing, hey, I only buy Fords. Hey, I only buy UGG boots. I'll get a different brand. I'll get their competitor. And so what we're finding with advertisers is that it's creating a period of pressure for you all. And with that, you're looking at, hey, we need to make sure that we are focused on performance with fewer resources. Some people have had to lay off their team members. Some people have had to really tighten and really figure out where are the resources going to make sure that their bottom line stays intact. They're also feeling the pressure from their competitors. So many times I hear advertisers saying, I have no idea how my competitors are spending all this money. I don't have that money to spend. I need to be as efficient as possible. You're telling me you want me all of the places, but I have to be efficient. I have to look at performance. And then we are looking at the shoppers, the pressure on their wallets that every dollar has to be for something. And so when we look at the retail space, there's so many parts of it, right? We have the customer experience and the loyalty programs. We need to look at logistics. We have strategy and planning of not only just your marketing and your media, but you have to look at strategy and planning overall. And then you also have to look at, what does my merchandising look like? Am I buying the right products? Do we have enough in stock? In 2021, we were having huge supply chain issues. So that was a huge issue. And then on top of that, you have if you are a brick and mortar, your store operations and any marketing that you needed to do after that. And so from there, you see that there's so much that Google can help you with overall. So I'm not going to read all of those, but this is just a good idea of where you can lean in from an automation or the new term AI perspective in terms of retail to just make it easier on yourselves, but also make it easier for your customers to access you. So if anyone wants to talk to me after this about a little bit more about this and delving in deeper, we're the Google Ads team, but we can talk to you about any of the cloud resources as well. And so AI is really going to drive and be the tool for how you're able to meet that complexity and meet all of the needs of the consumer journey now being a huge web that's unpredictable. Also, your business being a huge web of unpredictability. And so really trying to figure out to Greg's point earlier, what is your priority? And how do we use AI to make sure that we're optimizing toward that priority, right? So when we look at AI-powered profit engines, when you invest in your marketing and your sales, you see an increase in your revenue overall. And you should be able to see a reducing your cost by using particular AI solution. So from a paid search perspective or from a marketing perspective, are you using Performance Max? Are you figuring out your bidding strategy? Are you still using manual levers? Are you in the accounts day in and day out? Or are you looking at more strategy? We were talking earlier about instead of bidding to a ROAS target, skip to straight bidding to profit because that's what's important for your business. So those type of things of really thinking about, do we need to do all of the steps or can we have AI in the machine learning and the Google signals that we know Google already has, do a little of that heavy lifting and help us learn a little bit more about our business. So as much as you guys are giving us information and telling us, hey, this is the return that I need, we can also give you a lot of information on your business, where your consumers are, where even if you're like, hey, this is my target audience, we can tell you who is adjacent to that and what the path that it looks like to them finding you. And so what we see is when businesses invest in more AI-powered solutions, they see about a 2.5 times increase in their business. And so if you look, I'm dating myself. I was selling paid search ads in 2013, but in 10 years' time, it just looks completely different. I think someone asked me earlier, what's changed in Google Ads? A lot has changed in Google Ads. And so, the shopper experience is more native, it's more personal, it's more visual. Now, I don't know if you've seen the Google commercial now where if you take a picture of something, you can do the reverse image search. So if you want to take a picture of my jumpsuit, I got this jumpsuit from Love Bonita. It's a small business. And I saw a girl in Soho. I loved it. I took a picture of her. She said I could. And then I reverse Google searched it and was able to find it. And so I bought it from Love Bonita. And so that is just one part of the shopper experience. If you think about it, your consumer is not, or your customer is not always going to find you right on your website. So what does that experience look like outside of just your website? And so now what we see is we are able to make it experience-oriented, and we're able to make it predictive. If you just hurt your back and you're starting to look at painkillers and you're trying to figure out different remedies to help your back, probably you're going to stumble upon maybe you need to change your mattress. And so maybe we can let you know that that's a way that you can alleviate that back pain. And so this is a way where we're looking at, hey, can we get to the consumer before they even know that it's time to buy a mattress? And now we've gotten them loyal to our brand because we were telling them the story and educating them on what they needed before they even knew that they needed it. And so those are the things you want to start thinking of, and this is what AI can help you with in terms of the machine learning and the Google signals that you guys have at your disposal. And some really cool things that I personally love is that now with these AI-powered solutions, we're seeing really visually rich shopper experiences. A couple of years ago, I was doing a lot of talks about YouTube shopper playbooks. We've taken a lot of what was just only on the YouTube platform and brought it over into Google Ads. And so now you're able to, similar to what I just said, Google Lens, take a picture of something, really be able to find it. Right now, I'm moving out, and I don't know where I'm selling my dining room table, but I can't remember where I got it from or what the brand is because it was from an estate sale. I used Google Lens to try to figure out, okay, how much can I sell this for? I think I can still sell it for a good amount. What is the going rate for tables like this? And I was able to find that. You're also able to look at how do you try on shoes online? Can I figure out if a couch can fit in my living room through AR? Can I do a personalized search page? So I only want to look at brown handbags. That's all I want to see. Show me all the brown handbags. And so you're able to customize that experience. And so as I mentioned, shopping on YouTube, 3 years ago it was pretty impressive, but it's become even more seamless. And what we're really trying to do is make sure that YouTube does not feel separate from the rest of the Google experience. And you're able to get the data of the people watching and interacting with your brand, or even interacting with your competitor's brand. If you want to build an audience of your competitor, you absolutely can, and you can target them. Now, that means that someone can build that audience about you too, and they can target. But that's where you're able to start learning more. What are the behaviors of the people who are not choosing your brand? What are their behaviors, and how can you get to them a little sooner before your competitor? Okay. So, in terms of AI, when we think of it as a multiplier, we're looking at results, so you're able to drive really strong ROIs and unlock that growth. And that's in terms of looking at, am I diversifying? Yes, I want to look at the bottom of the funnel, but as I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel, I need to bring people in. So am I investing in the mid funnel? Am I investing in that upper funnel to tell my story, to get people to want to convert at the end? Looking at the customer connections, do I really understand my customer and how I'm resonating with them? Can I get to market faster? Get to market faster and in front of them a little bit quicker? What are those ways? And so there's a lot of predictability models that we can use right in Google Ads in that Insights page that you can use. And then you want to look at expertise in terms of driving a greater impact and driving more value. And this is going to be through your creative. Google's doing a lot of new things in terms of AI on creative. So now if you have an old creative and you're like, hey, it needs to be updated a bit, you can go right into Google Ads, into Creative Studio, and say, hey, I want new text overlay. I want a voice to text. I got some assets that are still assets, but we need to make it a video. Let's upload those and let's see how this AI-powered tool can create these videos. And a lot of times, some of the ads that are currently in the market, currently on like YouTube TV, were created in Creative Studio and people don't even know it. So, in terms of like transforming your retail business, AI learns from you, so the information you all give is extremely valuable. Don't just give us, hey, we need to hit this CPC or we need to hit this ROAS. If you're like, hey, we need to make X amount of money this year and Google is a part of 20% of it, so here's your goal, give it to us. And it will be able to model out exactly what it takes to get there. Help us understand what your source of truth is in terms of measurement and in terms of measurement and reporting. If your source of truth, hopefully it's GA4, but if it's not, that's okay. And give us that, connected to it, so that we have all of the tools that we need to make the best decisions for you and to learn from your AI. So this is a little bit more in terms of how that goes about it. We combine your data and your assets with ours, and we're able to really understand the business, how your creatives are currently resonating, how your messaging is currently resonating, what your user experience is when people come to your website. I know you guys have heard of maybe quality score, landing page tests. We're able to understand a little bit more of, hey, we notice when we drive this particular audience to this website, they drop off in a few seconds. They might not be the audience that we need to keep driving to. Or, hey, even though they're interacting really, really well with the website, they don't fit the typical audience mold, so the client is not, or the advertiser is not investing more in them. So should we not? So if you're starting to, I don't want to say be resistant, but if you're really stuck on, hey, we only have this particular audience, you might be missing a key audience that could really help fuel your growth. because audiences get some fatigue sometimes. So it's good to test those. And so to power business imperatives, one, I mentioned it in terms of bidding to profit. Maximize profitable sales. Is your $2 ROAS or your $6 ROAS actually profitable? Let us know that. And let's do the work. We can do unit economic calculators for you. We can really figure out and go pretty deep in determining, is your media working for you? How do we win the omni shopper? So as we mentioned, not everyone is just online. They're searching all different types of places. So how do we win them? How do we find them where they are at currently? And then how do we engage high-value customers? So it would really, really suck, for lack of a better word, if you're doing all of this, you're pouring your dollars in, and you're finding out the average order value is $20, or these people only want to shop our sale page. These are not the people that we want to target. So how do we target and engage those high-value customers and build strategies towards them? So we have a SMART scale, and these are things where we've built systems of where people don't typically look. When we think of search on its own, we think of push marketing. When someone searches the keyword that we thought of, we've spent a long time building a lot of these keyword lists, and we're like, hey, these are the keywords that people are looking at. And we're thrown for a loop when someone finds us and it wasn't on that keyword list. Well, now we're looking at, okay, what are some other ways that people are finding people outside of, those regular keyword lists, those audiences that we typically know align. And this is where PMAX comes into play. And so PMAX is meant to be incremental to what you are doing. I know that sometimes that is not very clear, but it is meant to be incremental. So you should have a very strong search foundation. You should be investing in discovery as well as some video, and then PMAX is able to find utilize the audiences that you didn't think of and find your customers there. Also, in terms of casting a wider net, when you think of search and keywords, broad match and powering it with AI is going to really be something that you'll see will expand your reach. And this is something you can do before maybe you even do PMAX. You can do broad match to really see, okay, maybe I don't have the appropriate spellings, or maybe people are starting to think of one keyword, think of our brand with another brand, but Google's able to understand actually their intent. And so they're able to target them for us rather than what our name matches with. And then you're also able to get a clearer picture. And so I really want to take some time to talk about enhanced conversions. We have two products in the space that I think are somewhat confusing to people: enhanced conversions for web and enhanced conversions for lead. Enhanced conversion for web, everyone needs to do it because it's the web signal. With cookieless tracking going away, you are going to see that your conversions will begin to decline. You probably have already seen it. You're like, hey, for some reason, when we look year over year, we've been spending more and getting less. Why is that? Our conversion rate seems to be somewhat the same or a little, or not as good. Why is that? It's probably because we're starting to not be able to track as many conversions as possible. And so enhanced conversions is going to be something that you want to look into, that you can model out and be able to figure out those digital signals. Your YouTube and your display campaigns aren't really going to make too much sense if you're not able to track those people and track those view-through conversions. So I don't want to sit here and tell you to diversify if you don't have your measurement in place. So this is just a quick snapshot, and I know I have to wrap up, a quick snapshot of how you align your business, how you then leverage to get more performance, and then how you go in deeper in terms of insights. And Max Connect has done a really good job at really understanding our platform and being able to help guide you all through this. And so then with Omni Shoppers, the channel-less experience, I think a lot of you have interacted with this, but looking at your asset coverage, looking at do you have a local strategy in your campaigns? What does that look like? Are the goals different for online versus your physical storefront? And here's all of the solutions there at your disposal as well. And we'll be able to share these slides as well. And then from a high value customer, this is us delving a little bit more into video and figuring out how we create somewhat of an always on solution or foundation so that we're constantly bringing people into the fold and moving them down the funnel. So net, getting the most out of your AI, you're going to make sure that you're combining that data, fine tune it with your business targets, really cast a wide net as far as you can, and begin to fuel the engine by being as agile as you can, testing your budgets, having test budgets if you can, so that you can get some more learnings and apply them. All right, thank you so much.
All right, well, good afternoon. I know it's been said a few times, but we appreciate you making the time to be here. We think, a lot of what Shenise, you just shared, and a lot of what was shared earlier is, we think, super important, super valuable. A couple things that we're going to spend some time on, a little bit of recap of some of Shenise's information, but we want to leave some time at the end to really have some Q&A. So we'll have Shenise come back up, and we really want, you as our partners to be able to ask some questions, and let's talk a little bit further about some of the things that have been shared. So if you can click to the next slide. As a bit of a recap here, just a couple of things that we really want you to take advantage of, and the slide's not showing exactly perfect, but under the session takeaways, similar to what Shenise said, is we really want you to be thinking about right now as you come into the holiday season, you really should be planning for the holiday season right now, is that you need to be thinking about truly investing in top of funnel activities. And then the other thing we want you to make sure that you're thinking, a couple other points here on the slides, is that you need to be thinking about what middle of funnel is doing for you, both from an awareness standpoint, but it also is leading into conversion. And by doing top of funnel and middle of funnel activities very well, that's definitely going to lead to your bottom of funnel being, converting to a much greater extent. Now, those are, I think, are obvious points, right? Like, okay, Jeff, we get it. But I think what happens is oftentimes in the day-to-day we're super busy and we forget about that you really need to be balanced in the top, mid, and bottom of funnel. And then a couple other things just to be thinking about is, you know this as shoppers, but it is Black November. It's not Black Friday anymore. And Black November, quite frankly, it begins November 1st. But truly, if you flip to the next slide, it truly begins with Veterans Day. So I really want you to be thinking about, here is being a retailer or anything you're doing from an e-commerce perspective, is you've really got to be driving results by Veterans Day. And then we mentioned on the previous slide, you need to really be thinking about all the way through Black Friday, and then Cyber Monday is no longer Cyber Monday, it's Cyber Week. And a lot of times that Cyber Week ends up being almost 10 days or even longer. And then it comes into what, just by show of hands, is anybody familiar with Green Monday? So if you're not familiar with Green Monday, it is an e-commerce holiday online. And it's basically the last time that e-commerce retailers put on a big sale in order to get free shipping by the cutoff date. Green Monday is a thing. So just be thinking about that.
It's going to be Green Month in a few years,
yeah.
So get ready for it.
So once again, Black November into Cyber Week or Cyber 10 days, and then right into Green Monday is what we want you to be thinking about. And then just a couple of other holiday predictions. And what's great about this is that Shenise, we didn't spend time coordinating our presentations exactly right, but exactly what she said is that the growth, we're expecting a growth this year of kind of 4 to 6% over 2022. A couple other key things, buy now, pay later. is going to be about 9% of sales this year. You know, not huge, but think about 10%. People are trying to figure out what are alternate payment methods. So just be thinking about that, especially if you're a big ticket item. And then discounting does drive sales, and this year even more than ever, consumers are waiting for those discounts in order to pull the purchase trigger, so to speak.
And if I can add one thing into there, just looking back at May and Memorial Day sales and things like that, we did a year-over-year analysis of cost per clicks and CPMs across the board, and mainly in Facebook, across Facebook and Instagram on all of our clients. And we saw that the cost per clicks across our agency were up 76% year over year. It's getting more expensive, okay? So we need to be a little bit more strategic on when we do those sales. Do we need to move it up a couple days? Do we need to do a different sale, you know, in the middle of the year that might be more beneficial because, you know, shoppers are waiting for those discounts? And then how can we align those budgets to align well with, you know, the top of funnel strategies leading up to it to then have strong budgets during those sales periods?
Perfect. And then final bullet point, and Shenise touched on a lot of this. So as we continue to work with you out over the coming months as your partners, how do we make sure that AI really works hand in hand with everything we're doing to improve product discovery and ultimately, obviously, improve overall sales results? So we talked about it already, kind of top, mid, low, or you want to think about a full funnel approach. These are the things that we really think about. And so on that funnel in front of you, the way to be thinking about it, obviously, is awareness and interest are really more of that top of funnel. Mid funnel is truly consideration and intent, and obviously bottom of funnel is purchase. And so, obviously, many of you here and you know that are online are familiar with these products, but each of these products play a particular role. And as we work with you and as your partners, we'll continue to adapt the right strategies to utilize these different tools the best way as possible. What we want to do now is Landon's going to take you through just a couple of client examples. And we know that this is a little bit hard to maybe consume exactly on these slides. We will send you these slides. But I think as Landon takes you through these couple of examples, just want you to be thinking about, for additional questions, how we can kind of bring these to life as we have conversation afterwards.
Yeah, and we'll share all this with you guys afterwards. But we just wanted to put this together. This was put together by a couple team members here at Max Connect for a client called South Moon Under. And we just wanted to showcase really how extensive the funnel can be, right? So you can see this top of funnel and how large that area is, and all of the different strategies that can be, you know, implemented in the top of funnel. You serve someone an initial video and they watch maybe a little bit of it. Well, let's get a different video back in front of them. Let's get their attention from there. Or they view the whole, 100% of the video. Okay, well, let's move them down the funnel. Let's get them into these other channels and other strategies. So as you can see, the top of funnel, how that feeds into the middle funnel, all the way down to the bottom of the funnel. We never want to lead with just those bottom funnel strategies, because by the time they're there, we're scraping at the edges of the funnel, trying to get as many customers as we can if we're not, filling it strategically like this showcases. And I want to talk about a strategy that goes really well with this. It does sit top of funnel, but it does bleed into some of those middle of funnel and bottom of funnel strategies. And the example here we're using is McGee & Co. Shout out to Denise here. But anyways, I'm going to take you through how this strategy works, and we're going to go through the whole dynamic product retargeting product and strategy that we run. So as you can see here, someone lands on McGeeandCo.com, then they go and look at a couple different products. They look at a towel, they look at a couch, they look at a desk or whatever it may be. They have a couple options from there. They can either leave, they looked at the product, they didn't add to cart, they just left. Or they can add it to cart, and from there they have the two options, whether they're going to purchase or they're going to leave that cart, right? So those three colors right there represent three different buckets of first-party data, of remarketing lists, that if you're not doing this strategy, you're missing out on those customers and being able to get really hyper-targeted ads right back in front of them. So as you can see, someone leaves the website, they only viewed a product. Well, as they're scrolling through Facebook and Instagram to see how their friends are doing later that day, boom, that same product, that same, throw a blanket that they were looking at pops up in their feed. It's one of the most relevant ads that they can be served. It's the exact t-shirt someone's looking at, the exact pair of shoes on Nike.com you were looking at. It's, whatever it may be, it's getting that exact same product in front of them. And we can also do this across the display network as well. So that's sitting a little bit more top of funnel, but it's still building that awareness. So as Shenise mentioned, when they're coming back and they're ready to search and make the purchase, your paid search ad pops up and they recognize your brand. They remember that they were looking at you earlier that day, and we're always, feeding that funnel with the top of mind awareness, that brand building, and those very relevant ads. I bet most of your competitors are doing this as well, and you guys can put me to the test on that, not right now, but maybe after, just in case I'm wrong. But go to their website, go to your competitor websites, go and browse a couple products, go add to cart, and then just leave your cart. And then as you're scrolling through, Instagram later that day, or you're on ESPN, or you're on Fox News, whatever it is, just be conscious of some of those ads that are serving, and you'll probably see some of your competitor ads out there. So that's kind of the main reasons to be doing this. One, this is a great cost-effective way to stay top of mind and build that awareness and stay relevant. Two, your competitors are doing it, you should be as well. Let's make sure we're there so that another competitor isn't showing that the throw blanket that they saw on their website to that customer. And three, first-party data is gold. You hear all the things with cookies and third-party data and how all that's changing. Well, this is the data that you guys have and only you guys have. So let's make sure we utilize it in a strategic way. And then one other campaign, and I'll quickly go through this so we have a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. But Google local campaigns. How many of you have retail locations? Okay, cool. A couple of you. So the first one was more of that, e-commerce. If you have a product, we can do that dynamic product retargeting. This one right here, the Google local campaign specifically, is more for those brick and mortar locations. And this is actually implemented through some of those Performance Max campaigns that Shenise had mentioned. And how it works is using Crew Car Wash as an example here, is we leverage their Google business profiles for all their locations. Whether you have one location or 1,000 locations, it doesn't matter, because we can do this. So we use those get Google business profiles to be able to get those ads in front of consumers wherever they may be. Whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Gmail, whether it's on Google Search or on Google Maps. The customer journey isn't linear. Shenise mentioned that multiple times. It's not. Consumers are all over the place in how they research and where they're looking for things. So this is a great way to be in front of those customers wherever they may be. And what happens is as they're searching for, car wash near me, or as they're, doing different research on best products to wash their car, or however it is, we can serve different types of ads wherever they may be throughout that local funnel and be able to drive interactions with your brick and mortar stores. This is broken out by the top 10 locations for Crew Car Wash based on impressions, and you can see how many times each one of their Google business profiles were served across Maps, across Search, across YouTube, Display, Gmail, wherever it may be. And you can also see the ultimate goal is to get store visits, right? And so we can actually attribute from those ads back to those store visits. This obviously comes with enough, spend in there and data collected by Google to be able to get to this point, but it's something that's very powerful to say, hey, we are able to serve, let's say X amount this month, and you were able to bring in 1,000 customers to this specific store. So as we optimize on our end, and as we're building out those campaigns, we're focused on getting phone calls, getting driving directions clicks, and getting people to come to your storefront.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so just the three key takeaways we talked about already is that, prepare now for Q4, Black November, et cetera. And so, as your partners, will be doing that with you. Landon already mentioned, but utilize your first-party data as best as possible. And then finally, just to recap it again, bring it all back to what Shenise started talking about, is that just make sure you're deploying a full funnel approach. That may vary a little bit from time to time with seasonality, but you really need to be thinking about that full funnel approach to what you're doing with all of your advertising dollars. So with that, I know we left a little bit of time. We definitely want to have just some interactive Q&A. Shenise, there'll probably be some questions for you as well, and we can bounce back into slides as needed, but definitely like to open up to questions. Anything that you guys would like to talk about?
Yeah, question right here.
So is the primary way that you're seeing brands capture first-party data by just capturing email lists and pop-ups? Is that the primary way, or because that's not always easy to do for certain businesses? What are other methods that you can use to capture first-party data?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. First-party data can mean so many different things. So yeah, emails in customer lists, yes, that's great. How we tag the website to do, for example, this dynamic product retargeting, we can bucket all of these based on what they're doing on the website. You don't necessarily have to have had their email, from this strategy, and we can, based on our tagging and implementing our pixel on the site, be able to bucket and utilize that first-party data. First-party data could even mean, YouTube visitor or YouTube subscribers members and people watching, your YouTube videos. There's just so many different ways to do it. Collecting as many emails as possible is always a great strategy, but with our team as well, we'll implement different strategies with pixel tracking and things like that. So
We've also had some good success just running different contests, obviously with the products that you have to offer as as an e-com retailer or a retailer, by building basically anything from an organic social. So obviously Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and being able to use that information as well. And then also running contests to capture more email addresses than just a pop-up on the website has definitely been pretty valuable. John, you had a question?
Yeah, when you think about the full funnel, take a general rule, people before when you some investment, how much you want to see in the top of the funnel, how much mid funnel, how much bottom funnel. I know it probably depends on
Yeah, that's a really good question.
So I think the way that we've typically thought about it here at Max Connect is that if you think bottom of funnel and then build it up, is we've typically said about 30 to 35% should be in bottom of funnel, and typically that's kind of your paid search and shopping. And then depending upon what type of, let's say retail, brick and mortar retail or e-com, just say retailer in general, is that you take that next 65%, and depending upon the, let's say the path to purchase or how long that path to purchase is going to be, then then that breaks down a little bit differently. So for you, like from a mattress standpoint, your top of funnel would probably be a little longer there because you're trying to get more awareness of why they should select you for a mattress versus if they're buying sheets or towels. So does that make sense? Kind of how that splits out. And there is some seasonality to it as well, because as we talk about November and December, I would say that top of funnel in November and December would shrink, and middle of funnel would be bigger, and then bottom of funnel would be larger. So like if you think about November, December, you probably end up going 45% bottom of funnel, and then split to 55% between top of funnel and mid funnel.
Any other
questions? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Sorry, I don't really donate. With the transition from smart shopping to Performance Max, we saw significant drop off in volume.
Okay.
Our ROAS is similar, if not better in some cases. We're just not getting the same kind of inventory. Do you have any recommendations for how to address that?
Yes. So was the volume I don't know if this is working. Was the volume qualified users?
Yeah, because the ROAS is still healthy. It's still where
Still.
it was before, essentially.
Okay.
Better.
So a number of things, without knowing what happened in the accounts, a number of things could have happened. Now PMax is looking across multiple platforms. So where Smart Shopping was only looking at the shopping and some display, now PMax can touch search, it can touch Gmail, it also can touch YouTube. So it's supposed to be incremental to whatever else you're doing. And so early on, PMax's biggest pushback was, hey, it's cannibalizing everything else that we are doing. And so engineers really took a methodical approach to make sure that it was just incremental. So the volume isn't going to be as large as you remembered on Smart Shopping, because PMax is supposed to be incremental to the rest of what you're doing. Yeah.
Any other questions? And maybe just even an open up to, I know not everyone in the room is retail or e-com. So Todd, anything from a healthcare standpoint, or Janessa, anything from kind of legal services? Anything else that you'd like to ask us or
everyone how you can track?
Yeah.
Now they're handcuffing us to healthcare.
Yeah.
And you can't really do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very little. We're really struggling to find ways to, what do we consider conversions these
Yeah.
days, since I can't track those people,
Yeah.
once they're on the site. I can't track those conversions, those scheduling appointment or anything.
Yeah.
So we've just got to find a different way to look at, what is success for us now.
And I think a lot of that is going to be just really taking a look at your analytics and applying values there, and knowing that unfortunately Google is taking a hard stance on sensitive verticals, and I think legal falls into that as well, of some things that we can do. And now the Department of Health and Human Services has taken an even harder stance on even what they identify as a HIPAA identifier, a digital identifier. For any of you that don't know, HIPAA says that a digital identifier is an IP address, which a patient identifier is an IP address, which would make it really hard for Google to do its job. And so we're trying to figure out ways to still meet the need of you being able to meet the patients where they're at, but also making sure that we're following all of those guidelines. So there's certain things, as we talked about first-party data, for some industries like legal and healthcare, and any thing that we talk about is as a sensitive vertical, no race, no well, we can do gender, but like no ethnicity, nothing that we can pass back to know a little bit more or whittle down to a person. Google takes a hard stance in not allowing you to pass that information back, which is why enhanced conversions is a good option. That was our response to being able to say, hey, you know, with people now declining cookies, so declining to be able to do dynamic product retargeting, or declining to be able to be tracked in any way, what are the ways that we can still give advertisers some semblance of what their performance actually looks like? And that was through enhanced conversion. So that's going to be probably your first step, but also working with your agency as well as Google to understand, like, okay, where are we placing these tags in the appropriate place, and working with your legal team in that way.
I think one of the things, just to add to the team, right, is that in one of the meetings earlier with James from Wilson Electronics, I think a couple of things that you have to offer from just some various audits and looking at some of the creatives and things like that, I think will definitely be of value. So maybe just do we still have just a couple of minutes?
We're just
right at time.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll obviously follow up as your partners with some of the other just kind of audits and some tools that Google has to continue to help what we're doing on your behalf be even better.
Awesome.
Right.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.